Oh, I get to say it twice. Thank you, Jesus. I need my mighties. What would I do without? You just see your mighties are the most precious gifts of God. To be in service to the whole. I'm saying Jesus has got those rocket ships revved. So it's a good thing for you to hear for us, really. Because through the willingness, the power of willingness, I love it. Lori is like the big W up. You just take that little pitchfork and you turn it this way and you got straight up. Divine power, acceptance of divine power. Today's lesson, I'm determined to see. And it does take determination. Jesus said, yeah, yep. Like to use a lesson every time there's a twitch. Yes, that's what it's for. I'm determined to see through these interpretive function of consciousness to interpret everything like something can be known other than infinite. You can ask him, Jesus, in the light of divine being and honesty of God, is anything known other than infinite? No. Do I know anything other than infinite? No. Do I actually know anything other than love in truth? No. Is there anything other than infinite love? No. Do I like to pretend that there's something other than He says, follow me. Oh, yeah. So we were talking about the script this morning a bit and last night, and last night's section, the script of your experience instantaneously being written by subconscious desire, and how really helpful it is to be reminded to look at the script from the perspective of infinite light, from our natural state. Then it becomes very clear what the script is. The ego is going to try to discuss the script and argue about what the script is, all to obscure that the ego is a play of a script that's impossible. When in the light of divine being, you can see the light's not carrying a little script in there. But that little script that's being generated out of subconscious desire for experience of a play, a little action figure packed play, and give all these little roles out. And you can ask Jesus, is that the play? I'm giving roles. I'm creating all these little dream figures, and they got roles and functions that they don't actually have. That's why he's got to tell us what everything is, because the play of consciousness to give everything a little assignment. You give that couch an assignment, make it, and then give it an assignment. Or like the teacup from my grandmother, like you make it, consciousness asks, oh, Jesus, did I make that teacup? He never tells me no. Is that a miscreation? And hear him. And then identify with it. Jesus doesn't judge whether we are happy about something given to us by another. He's not judging. He's just saying, see how when it's not used, fully utilized in divine expression, and it's like held on to as something of value, more valuable than infinite light, we'll feel guilty. So it's very interesting. I was, Jesus has been talking about this, like joining with our Spanish brothers and sisters, and Dira's hoping to have the internet worked out with Jesus. We'll put that up to Jesus. It seems like that'll be worked out in the next day or so. And Jesus had been telling me, no, you're going to start when he's going to start simulcasting to all of us. I mean, this is just, so we'll hear things in Spanish, but it'll be simulcast. He'll be telling us what it is. Okay, I trust him because he said this enough. Certainly he said, I've given a new way. You know, you just start seeing that he just fulfills everything he says, like about chapter 20 or. And so then I was talking to Kelly today and she said, yeah, you know, the strangest thing happened to me yesterday. It's not really strange. There were these two women I was with and they only speak Spanish. And I heard one of them talk in English. I knew she didn't know English. And I went to Jesus. He said, yeah, I told you what she said. So, okay, there it is showing up right there. It's like, wow. But it's natural. Jesus, is that natural? Ask him. That's completely natural. How about that? Because it's all in consciousness. All the different languages are in consciousness. They're all a play in consciousness. So why wouldn't we have access to all of it? And then I think she was her, someone else was telling me that, about Armel. Actually, Armel was someone at Living Miracles for a while, and she'd start hearing things in all kinds of different languages that she didn't know. So it's completely within consciousness power. It's okay, Jesus, we're open. Just demonstrating that we're not subject to the laws of time and space, of language. We made up language, and yet language can be used by the Holy Spirit of a demonstration of the power of Supreme Being. He starts telling you what's totally outside the script anymore. As the desires wash out, it's like, is this desired experience? No, it's just divine function. Okay. Okay, Jesus, you're outside of time and space. You just clears out the idea of time and space, and then you can't explain it. You're just outside of that. You're not in that. He said it begins to be awareness of dreaming, of the dream. No longer affiliated. No longer calling in the world, but not of it, what he promises. You know, these little back eddies can come up. Just use a course lesson. He said, you know, it's really simple. The willingness. I love that willingness. Your desire to see your brother as imperfect or limited is the same as your desire to see yourself as imperfect. So again, whatever we're seeing in a brother is, we have to be really careful about saying that. It really has to be something that he's told you to say, because then when it comes from him, it's very pure. It's purposeful. It's just purposeful. You don't even know what it's for. You just, what you're going to say. But you start simulcasting. Like he's just telling you everything. You're just knowing things. Can't even explain that. He just starts telling you everything. Because you're listening. You're listening in. He's always been there to help. But now we're like, the antenna is up. And he's interpreting everything in a way that serves holiness. Like joining with Mary today, and we were like listening together and talking about the real comfort that comes in that listening together. He said, you know, he just said about, it's so gorgeous. I love you, Mary. He just said, that's beyond this world. He said, I could hear him distinctly. He goes, well, that is beyond this world. He said, you can have certainty that you are beyond this world. I just said, that's the power of willingness. He goes, yes, that's the power of willingness to be with your brother in union, where you can be unified, the only place of union. So It's a complete transformation of every relationship to the holy relationship, to be the holy relationship you have with God. And to be willing to have every relationship be holy. And then be used by Spirit, and just, you can't even, you just carried, clueless and carried. Didn't David say that? Maybe Jesus is saying it now, so it's good. This is, you desire to see your brothers imperfect or limited is the same as your desire to see yourself as imperfect. So every thought we think about someone else is always what we believe about ourselves. You can ask Jesus. So every thought that I think about he, she, they, them, is what I'm thinking about, the belief I have about myself and God. That's the only way it can be, because there's only one. And the one, the light, doesn't think. Yeah. Oh. Infinite light doesn't think. It's beyond thought. You can ask Jesus, does the light think? It has a little thinking machine in there. It seems so inconceivable to the idea of a personal identity. Because identity is a bunch of thoughts stitched together and conceptual, and make the little paper tiger concepts, and so they can fight each other in there. And so the war's in the mind. We play Warzone. Put on our little dart board and start running around in consciousness. Oh, ow, ow. Your desire to see your brother as imperfect or limited is the same as your desire to see yourself imperfect. So Jesus, I'm just going to ask, I'd like to check in on these things. Is there any desire below my level of awareness to see my brother as imperfect? I'm willing to see it directly. Show me that. Because then that's like the clue that I have any kind of, any little twitch in there that I see myself imperfect or God imperfect. It's all the same thing. Any desire, any relishing of imperfection in a brother, I'm looking. You start to see how that's the, give the light it's the switch on the light, the recognition of light. It just turns it, it just tosses it out of the mind, that desire. This is the desire for a story on a timeline, imperfection. You can ask him, Jesus, is this desire for a story on a timeline? Is there any itch anymore for a story on a timeline? You just go till he tells you no. Because you can see the suffering, the level of suffering in a story. We were watching this movie, The Manchurian Candidate, again, which I had not seen. It was given like 1 minute before we were watching. It's like oh, okay, that's it. I get it. All right, there's the movie. Hadn't seen it before. This has been really a good trust Jesus activity, because that's how the movies come in, like never seen them before, don't know anything about them, and then they're just stunningly good, because now because I know he knows how to pick them. And just to see the story in line, and how the plane consciousness is to hunt for the one who did it. Someone did it to me. No, it's a decision to dream. And all the different levels of dreaming in that movie. And starting to see that something's not right, something's not working here, and to start to investigate it at least. I mean, we're still wrong with how we're investigating it until Jesus tells us he's got to tell us where we're wrong, because then we'll go down a bunch of investigative dead ends, because that's what consciousness is. It's just, it's truly a maze with a bunch of dead ends. It's going into a maze without a flashlight. No one would do that, but yet we'll do that in this maze of consciousness without the light of God, without Jesus. The desire to feel superior is the same as the desire to feel inferior. That's how the split is. You feel inferior and superior. You're always like struggling. And deny that you are as God made you. These are shadows the Son of God casts in his holy mind. So let's just check in on, see if there's any shadow in there. Do I have any desire to feel superior to my brother? Willing to see it. Or inferior to someone. That's such a relief when that falls away. He said, another requirement for supreme happiness, to just see that energy of the otherness. And you'll see it come up, even in the joinings, you'll notice it. How, the ego wants to come in there and play, oh, I know something, or I know something more than someone else. That's why he's really teaching us to hear his voice and speak that. So we're not trying to influence anyone. There's no salvation, horizontal self, hero of the dream. We can't save someone. There's no one out there to save. It's such good activity he's offering us, to stay with him, stay with him. He keeps saying that. And speak my voice, and just listen to my voice, and then listen to your brother, because I'll send messages to you through him. No, love knows not of because, or if then, or when, wherefore, or whys. Nor story. No story tells you who you are. That's the gig. Looking for a better story. I was like in the movie, he was looking for a different story. I need to understand this. I can find a better story. And that's the way it plays. It goes, well, if I had a better life, or if my life was just different this way, it's always trying to look in storyline to find a better, until we look with Jesus and say, we're so far beyond a story. Infinite light doesn't have a story. This is the play of trading illusions, shadow puppet battles between the thoughts that mean nothing. You can ask him, Jesus, do I like having shadow puppet battles between thoughts? Check in, Enzi. If there's any energy around that, can show that to me. That's what the lessons are for. They're like immediate, it's like balm on the shadow puppet battles. I am willing to see. It's not possible to have puppet battles. The light doesn't know what that is. See, the eye of the person is determined not to see. The eye that he's pointing, I am determined, is the higher, is the part that can see. See beyond the idea of a personal identity. Shopping in time for the experience of death, hungering for an opportunity to have an opinion. Oh boy, I spent some time with them on that itch for an opinion. He's got to teach us the difference between divine expression and opinion. That's interesting, If it comes from me, it can't be an opinion. It's divine expression. That can't be explained. Opinions are positions. They're like a position. The desire to be right. He said their desire to be right rather than happy. It's fun, you know, because when you say things that come from Jesus, it's like you don't, there's like not an attachment to being right with it anymore. You just, it's divine expression. So you're just, it's just nothing around it. You know, it's not saving thoughts for another day, you know, and oh, that was a good thought. Let me save that and save that in the future. And that hunger. Jesus, do I relish having an opinion about things? He said that's a major challenge in consciousness, because then opinions fight. You see, opinions fight with other opinions. When you speak Jesus, you're beyond an opinion. You're speaking as infinite. You're speaking the voice of infinite. It's not, opinion is trying to influence someone. Divine expression doesn't influence anyone. It just expresses as it is whole. It doesn't hold a position. It's positionless. But see how the light doesn't have a position? It's not holding a position. It just is. An opinion is a story of denial of the Father. Come quickly into the circle of light ever shining. Sit quietly in contemplation of the light given to you of the Father. So this is really, yes, sit in contemplation of light. Sort of like get to know yourself. He said that's getting to know yourself as light. And then the awareness comes of when we're jumping the light out of trying to escape the light ship. As we said, like a fish, you'll see it's just light is everywhere. I'm trying to get away from that. I'm trying to kill that out of my mind. See that denials do not exist here in the light of divine being. What does the light deny? Does it need to have an opinion? See that peace is here and all the love that seeking aimlessly in form can never provide. Here love offers no opinion. To be free of opinions. Jesus, that's for true opinion, isn't it? Can't even explain that, you know. That's just restful. As I said, it was hilarious because I was like the consultant like for 15 years in the last, and so the whole structure of the play was to have an opinion and to influence teams and to influence. And you start to see, oh, that's actually death as soon as, because there's always another in an opinion. Opinion always has otherness. You can ask Jesus, does it have an opinion? So that the expression comes out of infinite, like it's, because it knows no words come out that are true, because no words are true. You can just go to the light. We can do the light test, and the light of divine being is there a thought in a light? Is one thought true in light? Not a single thought's true. You see, the light doesn't have an opinion. It just is. It just, and then whatever comes out is most helpful because it's in alignment with the Father's will, and that's always what's most helpful, instead of in the play of touche, touche play, the thought touche play, the fight with thoughts. It doesn't mean they're a pushover. Thank you, Jesus. You know, because that's the ego plays, okay, I'm just going to be, because the ego has an idea of what supreme expression of divinity is. It's no pushover. The ego's the pushover. It's being pushed around by the ego. See, that light doesn't get pushed around by anything. It's just, it's like, it's unmoving. You can see it. Does the light move or change? It's unmoving. It's invulnerable. It's Teflon. It's like, that doesn't mean, you know, because you're forgiving everything or whatever, that you're not going to, if the call for it is, you're not going to be direct and say, you know, but it's not a war, you know, it's not in a war with anything. It's just love. It's just peaceful. In fact, a lot of what it seems in divine expression it doesn't matter though. They don't matter because divine expression is just happy as it is. It's just peaceful. And it can be interpreted, you're beyond interpretation of the world, worrying about, quote unquote, other people think, because you know there are no other people. So that falls away. You know, well, what does so-and-so think about it? Well, I just ask, what does Jesus tell me? And then that's great. That's all we need to know. You can ask him, Jesus, do I need to know a single other thing other than what you're telling me? And hear him. He'll tell you no. That's life. That's everlasting life itself. Expressing exactly as it is. Free of the if-thens and the wherefores and the whys. Like the whys fall away. There's not a why. There never has been a why, but there's an idea that there's a why. There is no why. You can ask, does the light have a why in it? It doesn't have a why in there. Here, love offers, it doesn't have an opinion. It's just not opinionated. Because again, it's a position. It is. Here, love offers no opinion. It is. Here, love rests in magnitude, celebrating only itself as it is. He said, Jesus, is that the only way we can rest? Yes. As it is. Honesty is essential. I love this honesty of God. I'm just like the gratitude to Jesus for honesty of God, the simplicity and the directness. The directness. The world's honesty is essential. Without honesty, there's no opportunity to see the truth, as the ego is self-delusion. That is just like, that's the whole gig. Because you start to see, like with Jesus' experience here, is they just have no clue about self-delusion, like clueless about how self-deluded the ego is. Like its entire function in how honesty of God cannot be found without him. Really, because we're so deluded in it. And then these joinings help with the honesty too, because we can't, as someone said, when you do chapter 20, there's no wiggle room for dishonesty with ourselves, because we're always going to Jesus and say, Jesus, and he's telling us, do I still have this desire below the level of awareness? And the number of times it's like he would say yes. But it's a happier and happier, just release it, and then he guides you through it, because there's no judgment. It's just, okay, it's direct looking, and keep showing it to me. This is not the honesty of the world. I'm so grateful that he talked about this, because it's so easy to get caught up in what we think honesty is. The only honesty, like we think we go to court, put our hand on a Bible. We think if we tell someone, I'm really not feeling well today, or here's what happened in my past when I was 2. That, I'm asking, is that intimacy? No, it's not intimacy. The only honesty is, I am not at peace right now. That's honesty. Like, that sums up the whole thing. I'm not at peace right now. Thus, I desire an experience that is not of peace. It saves time, for sure. Ask Jesus. I'm not at peace. He says, does he say spend time on figuring out why you're not at peace? No, he never. When does he say that? He never says that. Spend time telling a story about why you're at peace? Never says that. He just says, join with me quickly in a moment of light. Or your brother is my brother. That's join with me in a moment of light. And admit, I desire experience that's not at peace. Jesus, I want it more than God. And then realize that how much we want it more than God. So that energy can be released of just wanting it so bad. And just stay with them, as we've talked about many times. Just let that rise up and come into awareness. And it's like just a sense of relief from holding all that dishonesty below the level of awareness. The world's honesty is the belief that an exchange of information as the ego sees it is truth. So it doesn't matter like what the story is coming out like this. It can be, whatever it is, expression session, let's just say. If the W word is not included with that, willingness to see it another way, none of it works without W, willingness to be shown another way by Jesus. That's like the core in any kind of looking. It's the power of willingness, the power of God, acceptance of divine ability to look and see through the untrue. But this is fast, because you're going to what you can stay in the delusion a long time with just telling stories. See, there's a lot of time spent like, okay, here's a story and this happened to me and I'm releasing it. No, the release is the willingness. So you can just go and then by looking directly at the desire, I desire this experience, it's going directly to where the buck stops. Miscreation, the desire for an experience of miscreation. Honesty of God, oh, I love it, is admission of divinity. Start with the light. Jesus, am I light? And ask him that 1,000 times. Is it okay? Yes. He said, yes. You may have to ask him 1,000 times, am I light? You can ask him as many times as you want, as you need to. Until the denials fall away, you don't recognize yourself as light. You recognize yourself as a body. Honesty of God is admission of divinity, admitting the denials, which we're doing, admitting I do really desire this experience more than God, takes you all the way down there, and the refusal to accept what the ego made as true. So admitting denials is just asking for a miracle. I know I need a miracle. That's admitting the denial and asking for a miracle. Honesty is admitting you have all the power granted you by the Father. That's honesty, yes. Ask him, Jesus, that honesty to admit that I have all the power granted me by God. It's the only honesty there is, because that's the only truth. The only truth is identity, true identity, who you are. You can ask Jesus, is that the only truth? Your truth. It's not the words that come out of the mouth that's truth. Truth is identity. The only thing that's true is light. Honesty is admitting you have all the power granted you by the Father and ceasing to deny what's granted. And then you see with Jesus how much you want. You just don't want to admit, don't want the honesty of the, we were talking about instead of enlightenment, cease to deniement, not call it enlightenment, call it cease to deniement. Here's where it is right here. Ceasing to deny what's granted. Cease to deniement. Cease the admission that light is already here and there's nothing we can do about it because it's already granted. And then seeing how much, again, we want to throw it out, kill it, and how Jesus transforms everything. You don't want to kill your brother. You want to kill the light out of your mind. You don't want to kill something when you're mad. You want to kill the light out of your mind. Then it gets really, you start seeing, oh, I just tried to kill light of my mind. Honesty does not come through expressing emotions and feelings. You can ask them that. Does it come when I'm really expressing? It's not to deny them. It's the willingness to see it differently, to see what honesty really is. So the ego can get all in the kerfuffling of expressing emotions and telling stories and all that sort of thing. If the willingness there, it'll work, it'll clear. It's the willingness always. It doesn't matter how it looks. It's the willingness to see it another way that clears it. Honesty comes from inner looking at what is true. Does divine being, the light within, recognize what is moving? Does the light see what's moving? So we can see that it doesn't. So that's honesty. So honesty is finding out what's here. Like, look, get to know the light. Admit that there is, even if you can't say, look, it's me, I'm light, because that's, first, the light doesn't do it anyway, because the light just is. It doesn't go, I'm light, it just is. So the light just is. And get to know the unmoving. Just stay with what, just kind of notice what's unmoving, because we're always noticing the moving and changing. And that was a really helpful story that Muji told about, this woman that was in training with a master, and her master said, no matter what happens, stay with the unmoving. Because consciousness is the play of the moving. See, we're beyond consciousness. The light doesn't move. And so she's meditating on the light, or trying. I don't know if she really knew what light was at that time. Sometimes we don't know what we're trying to notice because that's how obscure it is. But it's lesson 44. We just go and join with me in a moment of light and see what's here and drop all your thoughts, feelings, emotions. So she's quietly meditating. And all of a sudden, these beautiful, exquisite colors started coming. I mean, it was like blissful just to see them. She goes, but she didn't fall for it. She goes, no, my master said it's unmoving. And then the angels start singing like Hallelujah chorus, and it's like blissful, and you know. She says, no, my master said it's an. And then she saw visions of Krishna and Ganesh, because she's Hindu. So of course those gods are going to come flood. She goes, no, my master said it's unchanging. She stayed with it. That's how consciousness plays. It's like Raman when Papaji went to see him, because Papaji was quite, I don't know if you know Papaji, but he was Muji's teacher, Indian sage, and amazing, and he's beautiful. If you hear his satsangs, are just adorable, and he laughs a lot too. But so he was really proud, because when he was little, see, Krishna and Vishnu, all the Hindu gods would come and play with him. So, and he was used to playing with the gods. So when he met Ramana Maharshi, he was really quite proud to tell him that. He said, and Ramana said something, I'm going to go read that story again, but something to the effect, what god would come and go? See, God would always be here, but it stopped him immediately. It was the pointing to the reminder that God is. God does not come and go. God is the unmoving one. And that caught his attention, because he searched all over India for one who could show him God. God is the unmoving. So it's really teaching us stay with the unmoving rather than the kerfuffling and just let the energy of the no, the energy that generates below the level, all the experience that's happening, and just let that arise and bubble out to be seen in the light, so it's not suppressed anymore. Does divine being, the light within, recognize what is moving? You can see it does not recognize what's moving. No, it does not. Thus, everything that is moving is untrue. So I asked Jesus, is everything unmoving? You see, that's what you can feel it go up your back. I don't want to see that everything might as well be honest. That's it. No, it does not. Thus, everything that is moving is untrue. Is everything that's moving untrue, Jesus? Happily so, he says. You'll happily find out that's so. Oh, thank you for the reminder. Is anything other than perfect peace true in the light of divine being? No. Can anything other than perfect peace be known in the light of truth? No. This is honesty and simplicity. Okay, so here's one. So I said, every twitch is dishonest. He said, yes. It is, if you really look at it, because twitches are the moving, and the only thing that's real is the unmoving. Honesty is admitting that you are not at peace and thus denying divinity and choosing again. Choosing to cease to deny. That's all choosing is. It's ceasing to deny. Because as soon as choice to deny arises, there's choice, and it goes like this. Choice is two. So he even turns choice around. Choice, instead of the choice to go out and play in the field of the moving, he says, choose to cease to deny, choose to cease to split out, fragment out. Heaven does not know what choice is. Does the light know what choice is? Is the light heaven? Ask Jesus that. It's where we're killing the light out of our mind. It's, that habit, as he said, like you told me, you have a habit of tolerating in a loving way, of tolerating. And you have to admit when you start looking with him, I had to start to admit he's right. I'm tolerating these things because we tolerate weakness. You're tolerating weakness when you don't follow me, he says. Heaven does not know what choice is. I love this. Here we go. There is no choice to be divine. Does the light choose to be what it is? Can it choose? Is there one opportunity for us? Just ask Jesus, Jesus, can I choose not to be light? There is no choice to be light. We're light. You just don't believe we are. I mean, the play of consciousness. Consciousness plays so that in the currency of belief, and the currency of belief is to deny light, to pretend there's a choice not to be light. But we can see the futility of it when we can look and see and ask Jesus, is there any way, any stretch, any possibility not to be light? No matter how much I want it, no matter how mad I am, no matter how much I scream and hop up and down, no matter how much I pound pillows, no matter how much I run, how far I run, am I still light? No matter how much I say no to you, how much I don't want to hear the name Jesus anymore, no much, am I still light? That's why the light test is so helpful. It just says it gets really simple. Just be that. Be only that. Thank you, Jesus. Despite the best efforts within consciousness, there is not a choice to be light. That's why this is a required curriculum. There's no place else to go except the light. Like only the time you take. Only the play in consciousness to pretend like it can be something other than light without ever being anything other than light. It sounds good to really start laughing over that impossibility that we could be anything other than light. So thank you, Jesus, for reminding us and for giving us such a simple way to look to see what we are and to release these denials, the big fat no, to what we already are. No place else to go except to you. Thank you, Jesus. Sending love to all of you from San Juan, Kosala. When Jesus says rest in peace, he means it for right now.